Back on the sports spectacular here. Mike, I gotta say, we had some excitement. We love the combat sports, you and I. You even like wrestling, which is a combat sport. But we do love it. And we saw Friday night what was not a combat sport. We saw Mike Tyson and Jake Paul dance for about 12 minutes or wasn't it? I think 6 2-minute rounds. About 12 minutes of dancing, but at least it was free.
Yeah, 8 2-minute rounds. And look, I've seen conspiracy theorists on X say that they have proof by watching the film that Mike Tyson wasn't allowed to throw hard uppercuts. And then other people have proof that Jake Paul was not knocking out Mike Tyson. I will say that it didn't look like that killer intention that Mike Tyson used to have was there in either man.
It was not. The one thing is, I guess maybe it goes away with age. As I sent to you in text, I said, Father Time is still undefeated, right? Mike's older. But then again, if this was Mike, if this was a pizza contest at a buffet, you and I can still compete, even with
Yes,
the young
we
guys.
can.
So age is just a number when it comes to eating at a buffet.
But certainly not with these guys. I'll tell you, this celebrity boxing is very frustrating for me because you got a guy like Jake Paul who can command big dollars. And so I want to prove that I'm a badass. So I'm going to find the first 58-year-old, someone 31 years older than me that I can fight. Here's what I would say to Jake Paul is you think you're a badass. So there's a heavyweight out there who's had his reputation semi-shot, who could make you a lot of money. So go fight Deontay Wilder, because Deontay has struggled the last couple of years, and certainly he has a weak chin. He also throws sledgehammer rights. But go out. If you're going to make $40 million like Jake Paul did, he won't make that much for Deontay, but maybe he makes 30 and gives Deontay 15. And I'm sure both men would make that fight and then see if you can really brag that you're a good boxer. I just get tired of this. I'm going to fight. Oh, there's some grandma who's using a walker in the mall. I'm going to fight her.
Yeah, it is sad because here's the reality. I actually think that Jake Paul is a pretty good fighter. I'm not saying he's the best. He's like a world champion or anything like that, but I would say this. I feel
He's
like
probably solid.
Yeah, he's a solid boxer. And so you'd like to see him fight somebody real. Yeah, you know who else? Speaking of teams that are doing well or people that are doing well, but then just got knocked out, was the Cavs started 15-0. They're going to go 82-0, Mike. They're never going to lose. And then the Celtics took care of
then
business.
Tuesday night hit.
Yeah.
And I will say, I don't know about you. You and I talk about this a little bit, but statistically, that Celtic team of last year is probably the greatest of all time from a statistical standpoint.
Just look at analytic type stuff.
Yeah, when you look at the analytic type stuff. And then I got to be honest with you. Of course, this is where I'll have to duck down underneath my desk here. But I just don't think the teams of the past, the Bulls in their era, with the shooting they have, I just don't think they could compete in today's era. Luke Longley and Dennis Rodman, what are they going to do in a game that seems like you almost have to have almost every player be able to hit from three to stretch the court? But I think that Celtics team is pretty hard to beat. And the Cavs they still could have an awesome season, but was anybody surprised that the team that put it to the end was the Celtics?
No, I do agree. It's a different game, but at the same time, the Bulls were a little bit. You look at those guys; they had some great 3-point shooters, and Paxson and Hodges and people like that. And if you had to guard Jordan out to the 3-point line, and you had the spacing that you have today, he would score 40 points a game because you can't guard him one-on-one.
Yeah, I could see 40. When I hear the 50s, I get a little bit.
Well, he did score 37.1 even in the old rules one year.
But the challenge
isn't crazy. But I just don't. But I think that their defense, when you talk about Grant or Rodman, and then you have Pippen and Jordan, they could defend too. They would be good defensively because of their length and their athleticism. So
Yeah, I just think it would come down to they couldn't score as much. And obviously, people are going to defend the era they come from. I get that. But I tend to be a guy who goes with the recency bias. I'm not saying that all the teams that win recently are the best, but I do think they're bigger, faster, and stronger. They have better training techniques. They're not having a six pack and a cigarette and some cigarettes after the
yeah.
game.
Yeah,
And
and I think that, but that era, the 90s, late 80s, 90s are a little bit different than those 70s, 80s teams. It had started to expand. I'm not saying there was the
yeah,
depth in the league there is now, but there are guys today. There are just more guys who are like Jordan and Pippen. That's what basketball players look like.
well, great
today.
players, they translate across,
But
don't they?
yeah, I agree. I think Jordan and Pippen can play in today's game. I think Jordan
Right.
might still be the best player today. But at the same time, the other guys don't necessarily fit. You probably wouldn't see a John Paxson playing much in today's game, right? He's a tremendous player, role player, but where would he fit? They might think Rodman couldn't shoot well enough, so they wouldn't even have him on a team. Who knows?
Yeah.
Different world. And you definitely wouldn't have a Luke Longley, or Bill Wennington could probably have become a
Yeah, he had a
stretch
decent
three.
outside shot.
And how about Lane Beer? Bill Lane Beer would fit today, wouldn't he?
Well, it wasn't he seriously that I contend he was the first of the stretch fives.
Yeah,
because he would go out there and shoot that 3-pointer after clubbing somebody in the lane, and then and everybody would be calling him a wimp or worse because he wouldn't go in the lane after he just El Kabonged somebody in the lane.
This just meant he was smart. So
Yeah, well, yeah, and he also was a good coach, right, in the WNBA.
Yeah, he did great. Did a fantastic job. Okay, another story really was interesting was Carmello. Carmelo Anthony, a blast from the past. We talked about older basketball players. Carmelo Anthony's son going to Syracuse. Is that a shocker?
No, I think it's pretty cool, at least. And now hopefully we won't have to read how he wrecked the Syracuse program. But Jim Boeheim did that by waiting 19 years too long to retire.
Yeah, no doubt.
But it is good for Carmelo. He gets a chance for his kid to go play at his alma mater. Or do we call it an alma mater when you're there for 1 year?
For 9 months at Syracuse. There, maybe not that much. By the way, speaking of sons of players, Butch Lee led Marquette back under Al McGuire. His son Brandon has committed to the university, or signed with the University of Illinois this week. So that's
and for Illini fans out there, he was one of the first great players, and I remember that title because the great Al McGuire won that, and then he went in to go and copy John Madden and go in and be a coach who was really colorful at describing the sport.
The French pastry. All right. Hey, we'll be back on Sports Spectacular right after this.